This is my tier list for the new keystones that are being released in 3.22. Now, at the time of recording, there are still a lot of unknowns about these keystones. They are, in some ways, very open to interpretation. I'm going to have some fun and figure out which of these are going to be good, how we can apply them, and whether or not there are any really hidden gems here. So if you've been around my channel for basically since I started, you'll know that I do really like Ritual. It's a shade of its former self, but we're going to start with Arbitrary Tenets and Immutable Dogma. Starting with Immutable Dogma, cannot reroll favors at ritual altars in your maps, and the monsters sacrificed at ritual altars in your maps grant more tribute. This makes the mechanic much easier to do. Obviously, you can just do all the ritual encounters and then just click, click, click all the things you want out of the page, and it's going to be a lot easier to do the ritual. You don't have to reroll 3 times. You don't have to worry about saving any of your tribute to make sure you get some stuff out that you want. Saving your rerolls and seeing as many pages of the rituals was the best chance to find those big ticket rewards. Each page obviously gave you a chance to roll for something really, really good. So you'll be cutting that chance at least in half, and if you're using profitable prayers, then you're going to be getting a quarter of the ritual pages. So you're going to be seeing good rewards a lot less frequently, but you're going to get the smaller rewards out much more commonly. But seeing 1/4 of the pages kind of stinks, which is why I am very sorry to say this one is going to be, I'm going to put it C tier, because I think for some people this is going to be really nice. I think in terms of end game blasting, it's just not good enough. So that's where that one goes. Next for Ritual, we have Arbitrary Tenets. Now this one means that favors at your ritual altars in your maps randomly cost between 90% less and 80% more. So on average, it's going to be cheaper to take stuff out. However, this creates a very dangerous precedent, because if you run this without the other keystone, let's say we're running it alone, if you were to find something incredibly good, like a mirror or a mage bullet, typically those things cost about 3,000 to defer. Back in Ultimatum League, when I farmed up 10 mirrors with Ritual, I had to make sure I had 3,000 in the bank when I clicked reroll for the last time to make sure I could get a mirror out, because I did one time actually not do that and I missed the mirror. Now, when combined with the newer one, this does play to its strengths quite a lot, because it's going to roll on so many of the things on average, because you're just going to be buying so much out of there and you don't have to worry about re-rolling. You're going to see less really powerful rewards, but more frequently going to see like 10C, 15C items. I think it could be really good in combination with Immutable Dogma, and it's definitely going to be like a pretty consistent way to make money with Ritual. I actually think this one is worse than this one though, because it requires the other one to actually be really good. So starting off pretty weak, but now we'll move on to Cassia's Pride. If you're a blight enjoyer, rejoice. You get to now go completely AFK. Instead of standing and spinning around in a circle and attacking, you now just get to completely do nothing. You just get to build towers and go. There are like 2 towers you can combine. The fire tower that summons meteors. The meteors bypass the fire immunity. The burning ground when you have it enchanted on your ring. And then you could just use like freeze tower, enchant, or something like that, and you're just going to be good to go. You could just literally just be doing work or watching your favorite streamer, or maybe watching a YouTube video and subscribing and liking, and you can basically do whatever you want whilst you're running blight. Now, some people like to make a build and then use that build to kill mobs, and for those people, obviously, this is kind of nothing. But if you're a blight enjoyer and you just want to play tower defense, then this is okay, but nothing crazy. It's not going to like alter the way that you do the mechanic. I'm sad to say, other than for the fun of playing tower defense for the few people that want that, I'm putting it in D. I'm putting it in D. It has to be done. We have to have something has to hold the line at the bottom there, right? Now, all hands. All hands is a really interesting one. So all hands says that your maps have a plus 40% chance. That's huge to start with. I believe it's something like 10% right now. Modifiers to chance to grant an additional master mission on map, instead apply to chance to encounter it at 150% of their value. Now, this is really strong if you're doing something like Betrayal or Alva, or maybe you want to farm Beasts and you don't want to pay for the Scarabs. Honestly, they're really cheap though, so why bother? But for like for Alva and June, this is really strong. There are a lot of these nodes on the tree that give you a chance to grant an additional mission on completion, and obviously these are multiplied by 1.5, and you could basically have it if these are additive rather than they kind of overlap together. You could have a chance to basically always get a mission in your maps as long as you're using a few of them. So could be really interesting if you're into doing betrayals and stuff like that. Betrayals normally a really good currency maker. You can farm up wing scarabs. I do believe wing scarabs are going to be very good this league, because the end game juicing strategies I think got a big buff as a result of some of the things we're going to talk about later. So betrayal could be really powerful. Going to actually put this one in B tier. I think B tier is pretty fair for this. There are some really strong ones. That's why I've got to, you know, we've got to start kind of tempered. Maybe we can move stuff up later on, but I think all hands is going to be really good for that reason. Now we move on to the Endless Tide. Now this one's super interesting. So it's for Beyond, for those that don't know. Basically, your Beyond portals in your maps cannot spawn unique bosses, and Beyond portals in your maps have 50% less merging radius. So when we start talking about this, the first thing I'm going to say is that Beyond, since its rework, has been kind of a fast mapping strategy. It's been something you implement in a strategy where you want to do as many maps as possible in a short amount of time, because you just want to run in, kill the boss, grab any loot from it, and dip. This gives Beyond the opportunity to be reintroduced as maybe a juicing strategy. It's been something that's kind of been ignored for the really endgame juicing strategies, but this could potentially give it the opportunity to be back in there, because you're going to be spawning tons more mobs. You're not just going to kill one pack of mobs, spawn the boss, and then your Beyond's gone. You've got this opportunity for Beyond to actually be on the entire map. And with the new notables at the top, which give you more chance to find unique items or currency items, or even divination cards for the apothecary farmers among you, this could be really, really good for those kind of juice strategies. And I think we're going to see a lot of this. The 50% less merging radius does shoehorn you into a strategy where you're going to have a lot of pack size, and so that all those overlaps are going to cause you to summon more Beyond portals. So where we're going to put it though, this one is going to be the first one that I throw into A tier. They did say that they'd reduced the rate that you drop tainted currency from Beyond mobs, which is why this doesn't go into S. Too many unknowns. Maybe that's super low and they've changed it an awful lot, because then you're just not going to get any tainted currency. It's not really going to pay for itself as often, unless you're scaling some kind of MF or something like that. So I'm going to put it in A, but this has potential definitely to go to S depending on what they did to the tainted currency. Now, the 7th gate. This one is very, very interesting. The 7th gate reads, all possible league map crafting options are available while 6 gateways are allocated. You might be thinking that's going to completely destroy your tree, but let's just very briefly click all the gateways. This is the shape you get, and then you'd obviously go across and grab all these. Now, this is the start of a pretty normal tree. Other than this little pathing down here, this isn't a bad tree to even start with. You're not going that much out of your way. Obviously, you're minus 6 points because you're using the gateways, but you can maybe make that back with how you choose to use them to, you know, get across the Atlas. So it's not terrible in that you have to pick up the gateways. I don't think that's too much of a downside. And the upside is that you're going to have access to a catalog of league mechanics. You're going to be able to get anything that's not on the map device that could be on the map device. Think things like ambush if you're a strongbox farmer, you want to do some apothecary farming. Think Beyond, maybe you want to guarantee Beyond without the compass and you can save that slot for something else. Expedition. We'll get on to why I think Expedition could be good with this later, but it goes into things like Wandering Path with like growing hordes, because you can't use scarabs to guarantee that encounter. So now you're going to be able to guarantee encounters by using the gateways and the map device. There's also some synergy with overloaded circuits. I haven't looked too much into this, but it could be good with things like Strongbox. There's not too many notables. You could even grab these duplication things for free. Normally you wouldn't want to spend all these points to get to these, but there is a chance you could just combine this with overloaded circuits, which we'll talk about in a second, and you could get those 3 additional nodes to duplicate the rewards from the Strongboxes themselves. Whether or not that's worth it, I don't know, but could be very, very good. So I think 7th Gateway is going to be one that we see in a lot of strategies, and for that reason it's going to be the first, in my opinion, S tier keystone. I think it's really cool flavor, like having to get these gateways and work them into your Atlas tree. There's going to be some really cool pathing that people come up with. Now, as we mentioned, overloaded circuits, another really, really cool one. Overloaded circuits means that when you use a map crafting option, you randomly assign 3 notables associated with that league. So let's say we used Essence on the map device. We have 4 clusters. So all we have to do is pick up 1, and then everything else is going, all these other notables are going to be selected. So if you've got a mechanic that's on the map device, or you're running 7th Gateway, and the small clusters aren't that important, these aren't that good, right? Imprison monsters, 5% chance to have an additional essence. Who cares? So you could definitely use it with this. Essence is really good with this. Another one that it's very good with is Harbinger. Harbinger's really good with this. There are only 3 clusters. And what this means is that any tree that involves Harbinger, maybe you want to be on the left side, maybe you're doing some Beyond stuff. Maybe you want to do Grand Design with Harbinger and kind of red altars or stuff like that. Well, you could just take all the Harbinger notables without having to spend all the points it would take you to travel up to here and grab this and down here. At a minimum, it's saving you 9 points, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, whether or not this works with Wandering Path, I do not know. I don't think it should, because it says that notable passives grant nothing. So this changes the effect to just be blank. So allocating them shouldn't do anything. But there's a chance that it does, and it's certainly something I will test, because if that can work, that is absolutely broken. But we don't know about that. But for this one, again, this one I'd say is high A. I don't think it's quite S tier, because it's kind of limited in its application. You either have to use a 7th gateway, or you're pretty limited to Harbinger and Essence. Next, we have our boy over here, Bold Undertakings. So at a glance, this is obviously just twice as good as using Fortune Favors the Brave. You get twice the benefit. It's kind of balanced out. You get a little bit more than twice the benefit, because you're going to have that extra chance. You're going to roll the first one. If you don't roll what you want, you're going to have an increased chance to roll the second one what you want, because you're not going to be able to get the same one twice. Now, in the past, when you would run Fortune Favors the Brave, we're looking at the 3.21 tree, you used to get 10% quant, rarity, and pack size for running it, which was a really, really big bonus, and that got removed. So it's hard for me to understand where Fortune Favors the Brave is going to fit in. Now, looking at the Kirak mods, this isn't too bad. It's definitely going to be valuable. When you look at things like you're paying 3C for these, you are always going to be in the positive, because, you know, some of these cost 4, 6, 6, 10, 10. Given the expected returns you can receive from this, you're definitely always going to make money from using this keystone, but you're not going to be like specialized into anything. You're not going to be forcing, you know, breach every single time with your breach scarabs that are going to increase how good those breaches are. It's kind of hard for me to think about this in any kind of end game strategy, but as an early game strategy, just getting these discounted, really strong mechanics to get some loot back from, I could definitely see it. I don't hate this at all. I think it's really good, but it's very much an early game thing where you're just trying to get a bit more value out of your Chaos Orbs in early progression. Or maybe you just like the variance of it. Maybe you just like to, you know, not know what's coming up. I don't personally like it that way, but I can see it. So we're going to put this one in the high C tier. Very good early on. You're going to make some money from it. If you don't really like to specialize in any kind of strategy, run things that are very, you know, guaranteed returns, you could do this, but those returns are typically going to be much lower than if you were specializing in an actual strategy. All right, next, we're going to talk about Delirium. First of all, before we talk about what it does, I just want to say that this placement is kind of trolled by GGG. Like, if you want to get through here, you have to take this, or you'd spend in what, 1, 2, 3, like 7 points to get around it. So it's a little bit troll. But Unending Nightmare, Delirium Fog in your maps never dissipates. Delirium Orbs cannot be found. Sim Splinters cannot be found. So again, much like when I mentioned Beyond earlier, Deli for me had become something, either you're MFing and you're increasing how good the mobs in your maps are for drops, or you're doing it quickly. You're building up to like 5, 6 reward tiles at the bottom, and then at the end of map, you would be proccing Imagine Pursuits to get that extra one. And you're just doing it quickly to print Delirium Orbs. You'd get some splinters. You know, this wasn't an insane splinter generator the way that people have been doing Deli recently, but you would definitely get a lot of Delirium Orbs. Another side effect of this is typically there are maps that just don't work well with Delirium. You guys probably know, maybe you walk into an Atoll or even a Crimson Temple or a cemetery, and you open one mechanic and then you're just constantly waiting for the Delirium to keep up with you. It's super annoying. This way, at least, you're never going to have to worry about not keeping up with the Delirium. It's just going to be there. And this is also a situation where not getting the Simulacrum Splinters or Delirium Orbs aren't going to be a big of a fraction of how much money you're actually making if you're running a strong MF strategy, much like Snoobay does or something like that. This is going to be a fraction of the money you make if you're running a strategy like that. So just for the comfort of never having to worry about where your Delirium is, this could be very useful in those situations. So definitely useful, but not for everyone. And if you're someone who likes to go fast and doesn't like to juice up and run these MF strats, I don't think you're going to be using this too often. So this one is, again, going to go into the C tier. I think B tier. I know a lot of people do like 2MF, so I'll put it in B tier. I'll try to be fair. Now, the crazy one. Very interesting one. Speaker of the Dead. Tormented spirits in your maps can possess players for 20 seconds. Tormented spirits in your maps cannot possess monsters. Now, if any of you watch Snap, he's one of the members of Empyrean's group, who, you know, they do all this super big brain MFing strategies and stuff like that. He was talking about having a ghost runner, basically, who runs into the map, gets all the ghosts, tags all the mobs with the possessed buff, and then they have a huge amount of quant and rarity attached to them. So this is going to be very big for those party play, them MFers, who are going to be getting, probably, you're going to be seeing some really big explosions of loot, I imagine, this league from this kind of stuff, which I'm excited for. I love seeing that stuff. I'm never really like, oh, he's getting this and I'm not. I don't care about that. It's just cool to see. So I like that this is here, and I think giving something back to people who like to play the game in that kind of way is something we've needed for a few seasons now. We had the Calandra League that kind of almost deleted the way that these guys like to play the game. So giving them something back, I hope this is something that can really help bring that back in a degree that GGG are more happy with. Very good. It sounds a bit annoying having to stand in the map and then wait for a guy to do a lap and tag everything, but you gotta do what you gotta do to min-max, huh? And then for like the Atlas Andes, the common folk like me, I don't see myself doing much with this. I can't see myself throwing this into any kind of strategy. It doesn't really seem worth it. It's too like gimmicky and weird to play around, but I could very much be wrong on this, and I hope I am. But this one for me gets an A tier. I think this is a really cool keystone. I think it's really well designed, and I wish more of the keystones had this kind of flavor and also implication to how you use them. I think a few of them are lacking that. Destructive play, something for the maven enjoyers. We haven't had much reason to farm maven maps in a while. There's altars have obviously been king since basic, what was it, Arch Nemesis or Sentinel? They've been absolutely king since then, and even the change to them that came in didn't change that. Whether or not this changes that, it kind of depends. It depends whether these map bosses that spawn can be witnessed by the maven. So if you can spawn 3 additional bosses and that counts as 3 additional witnesses, you're going to be powering through those maven invitations and getting a lot of crescent splinters, and you're going to feed them to the maven farmers, and you're going to make a lot of money doing this, and it might make it worth it to do some kind of boss rushing strategy with things like Metamorph. That works really well with having more bosses. This one is, for me, going to go in B. I'd say probably high B. I like that maven is more competitive, and I hope that this does a bit more for that. Now we have Lucid Dreams. This makes it so your vaal side areas are no longer corrupted, so you can craft them, which is a very interesting mechanic. These can be crafted to have quite high amounts of quantum rarity. They could in the past. I know they've altered a few things, which is probably going to tone them down a little bit. But you can also craft these so that you get guaranteed ultimatum fragments, so you'll be getting those trial master encounters more often. I couldn't actually find, I really looked, a modifier list for these things. I couldn't find one, I'm really sorry. To my knowledge, you can get some really good MF on these zones, and obviously the trial master pieces. That is my knowledge. I'm really sorry I couldn't find anything. Let me know in the comments what the cool things to do with this is, because I'm kind of, out of the loop as far as this one's concerned. I did a bit of research and couldn't find anything. I'm not really sold on this. It sounds annoying more than anything. Like, it's going to be cool for a little bit, and then you're going to encounter it, and you're going to be like, oh, I forgot my alts, I forgot my transmutes, I forgot my regals. And you're not going to have the stuff to craft them. So maybe cool, maybe some super highbrow, crazy strategies you can do with this that I'm just not aware of, but I'm not sold on this one. And I'm sorry to say, I know this might be a shame. Some people really like this one, but I'm going to put it in D. Think of this as in question mark, but I kind of think it's D, All right, moving on to crop rotation. Harvest crops in your maps contain only tier 1 plants. Harvesting crops in your maps has a chance to upgrade the tier of plants of different colors. When I first read this, I thought it was really, really strong. And the more I've thought about it, it all just depends. It just completely depends on what this chance is. And if the chance is ubiquitous, so if you harvest a purple patch, do all the yellow seeds have a chance to go up, or does each seed have an individual chance? I have no idea. But the fact that this is locked behind the nodes that reduce the chance for certain crops to grow could be used. You could do some tech where maybe you're using reduced purple plants, and then you're guaranteeing a plot of purple plants with the compass, so that you can, try and balance out which ones you get in. You're guaranteed purple, but all the others have a reduced chance to be purple, so you can get the maximum amount of alternate colors. And then you'd kind of look around the harvest. You'd go, okay, I've got a yellow here. I've got and then you'd want to go blue, blue, purple, and then your yellows have chances to be T4. So it could be really powerful. If the chance is like 0.25 or something, then what? The odds of hitting a T4 seed would be something like 3%, which honestly isn't that bad. It could be good. We just need to know what the chance is, basically. Maybe it's a 50-50. If it's a 50-50, this is very, very good. And I could see a lot of people using this for harvest. So keep an eye on this one. I think it's got a lot of potential. I'm not too sure yet, though. If it works how I think it works, if it's like a 50-50, then I'd put it in A. but I'm going to put it B for now. But I think this one's really good. Now we have my probably, the ritual one's my least favorite, but Timeless Conflict. It's my least favorite, doesn't mean it should be your least favorite. It basically makes it so your Legion encounters have no timer. Instead, you have a schism meter that will be built as you kill mobs and break out chests and all that kind of stuff. So typically Legion is like a blaster strat. You see people doing it and they're one-shotting the entire thing and it takes them less than a second. Maybe you're not up to that. Maybe you go a bit slower. And for that reason, you're probably a bit priced out of doing Legion. It kind of depends how they balanced it, because if you're a build that can't clear a lot of the Legion, how much realistically is this Schism going to help you clear more? You'd have to have, I assume you'd have to have a pretty bad build, I'm sorry to say. A pretty bad build for this Schism to be better than just getting out what you can get out already. Maybe you kill 50% of the Legion. Is this Schism going to make it so you get more than 50%? Are you going to get 75, 80? So for the non-blasters, I think this will allow you to do Legion, but also you're going to have to kind of benchmark it as to how much of the Legion you can typically break out, which makes it kind of annoying to figure out if you even want to use it. So this one for me is, I think it's D. I really don't like it. I think it's encouraging you to do mechanics that your build's just not equipped to do. Next, I have my favorite one. Where is it? Ooh. Extreme Archaeology. 200% increased explosive radius in your maps. 200% increased explosive placement range in your maps. Expedition monsters in your map spawn with additional 10% of life. You get one explosive. Big boom. Everything spawns at once. All the remnants apply to the monsters at once. Tons of loot, tons of stack decks, tons of essences. I'm taking this thing straight away. I don't care if I'm going to brick some of them. Yes, you're going to take this, and sometimes you're going to get that immunity. Keep an eye out for it. Try and avoid it. This is my favorite one. This is absolutely correct. I think we're going to see a lot of this. Expedition was already good. Just makes it even better. It makes it much faster. Normally, when I would do an expedition, I would kind of plant everything, let them all raise, go do my thing, kill the boss, jerk off, and then come back and kill them all at once. Now I can just kind of place it, stand, kill them all at once. So it saves a lot of time. So it does give you the opportunity to use Wandering Path, which is going to give you a huge boost to things like pack size, rarity, quantity, and you don't really lose that much. So basically, the most important thing you lose is Buried Knowledge. The 20% runic monsters is important, but the amount of pack size you're going to get back from using Wandering Path could make this very worth it. And then basically the payoff, you're going to get tons of artifacts, tons of vendor refresh currencies, tons of stack decks and essences. This one's really cool. And for me, it goes in S tier. Does it beat the 7th gate? I think just for flavor and how much you can do with the 7th gate, I think I have to leave it top. I really do. I think it's the best one. Now, well, actually, spoiler. Maybe it's not. What is the last one? Meticulous Appraiser. Modifiers the quantity of items found in your maps. Instead, apply to rarity of items found in your maps at 300% of your value. I am not the person to tell you how good this is. I'm going to be straight up. I am not. I don't like to magic find. I don't know how this applies. I've heard from people that are in this space, they say this is kind of like you lose 80% of the items that drop on the ground, but you gain like what, like probably like 600, 700, maybe even 800 rarity as a result of taking this. Is that worth it? I'm not the guy to tell you. This is another question mark one. I think it could be cool. I think people are definitely going to try this, and we could see day one. I really do think there's a chance. We see things like Rogue Exiles that have a flat amount of items they drop, so you don't have to worry about the quantity. Then you can have all that rarity that can scale these things up, maybe into jewels, maybe into, you know, those really rare, unique items. So I think we're going to see a lot of people running this with things like Ruckus. I know this is something Snap talks about. Exiled Will with Ghosts. So I think we could see Meticulous Appraiser potentially be very powerful in that situation, but other than that, it's just too much of an unknown for me. So for that reason, that goes in the question mark tier, along with the vaal side area. So that's it, guys. That is my for fun tier list. I will, this league, as always, be doing 7 days, 7 farms. We'll be coming back with lots of currency tests. We have so much to test with all these new keystones, and I hope you hang about to see all those. I will also release some Atlas trees as well as update existing max roll guides. I'm really excited for the keystones and 3.22 and trying out the new mechanic, all the new stuff. There's so much for me to do in the new league, and I hope you're excited for it too. Peace.